we're going to start off, first of all, my name is Daniel, that's Luke. Welcome back to another episode of the of reality football. So yeah, we're gonna we like to tell we like to tell everyone what we're doing today. What we're doing today here.
Yeah, so I think we'll be doing a little bit of NFL season preview. I think we'll talk a little bit maybe about free agency and a little bit of draft recap, and then also get into a little bit of I think the conference and division winners, and maybe a little bit into some of the player awards. So yeah, looking forward to discussing this all with you today, Daniel.
We're gonna start this off by discussing the Super Bowl. Who we think will win the Super Bowl. Do you want to start us off, Luke?
Sure, yeah, I can definitely start us off. So, I'll preface that I'm definitely biased, being a Kansas City Chiefs fan, but I know Kansas City Chiefs are definitely the favorites to repeat. And so it'd be hard for me to pick against them. I mean, I will say that for some reason, despite being a Chiefs fan, I really have a sneaking suspicion the Eagles are going to be very good again next year. And I'm a little bit worried that they, might be able to take the Chiefs down, especially just because, the Eagles, the NFC is really not very strong this year. And so, kind of similarly to last year, they could really, come into the Super Bowl pretty fresh. And, I think, again, give the Chiefs a real run for their money.
Yes. Uh, for me, I'm biased too because I'm I'm also a Kansas City fan, but like you see, I'm also a Seahawks fan. I am also a Patriots fan.
So, are
So
you going
I'm
with the
very biased
Seahawks?
on this.
You going with the Seahawks to win?
My prediction is the Seahawks.
Wow, that would be a big upset.
My prediction is Seattle. I'm I'm just predicting this.
Hmm.
Nothing to worry about, Seahawks fans, but I'm biased. So I want my I want to rematch.
Okay.
Seahawks Patriots. But this
Oh,
time Seahawks over the Patriots by
that
an
would be
interception.
that would be a very surprising Super Bowl. I know. I mean, the Seahawks, maybe you definitely have a chance to make the playoffs, and probably the same with the Patriots. But yeah, Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl would be a definite shock to me, at least looking at the teams preseason. But again, like you said, it's preseason, and sometimes you never know. So
And you never know what can happen in the NFL season.
very true. Are there any players you're thinking on the Seahawks that you expect to really have a breakout season and lead them to the Super Bowl this year?
Yes, I'm Jackson Smith and Jigba and Devin Witherspoon.
Sure, they're two
And
first rounders. Yep.
also Tariq Woolen and Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm. And I know also, I mean, Kenneth Walker also is a
Them
very very solid running back. So they do have a pretty solid young core. I'll say. I mean, maybe have a little bit of doubts, at the quarterback position, but across the board, they do have some, I'd say, really good young talent.
and then I can always predict the Chiefs for a repeat, but I'm like I gotta mix things up
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah. See, that's like I said, I'm too biased not to pick the Chiefs, but I do have a feeling that, the Chiefs, they really did have some close calls in the playoffs. I mean, definitely the game against the Eagles and the Bengals as well. And to be honest, even really the game against the Jaguars, when Mahomes went out with the injury, that, huge drive by Chad Henne really kind of saved that game for the Chiefs. So, the Chiefs, as much as they've been winning, games and winning Super Bowls, they've definitely, allowed teams to keep it close. I will say.
Yeah, like the Super Bowl, we love the Super Bowl. It's like the World Championship of football.
It is.
And it's literally started out. I'm gonna go into history here. When the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl, they beat the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
And that Viking defense is known for their purple people eaters.
Yep.
Where are the Vikings gonna be known for this time?
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, the connection between Cousins and Justin Jefferson, and I mean, I would say they, I don't know if they'll take a step back this year. So I'm trying to think, were they about 13 wins? I know in the previous season, which, that's a really solid season. So I could see, I still see them with double digit wins. But again, they would be, an interesting pick out of their side.
Yeah, like if we would pick any team to win the NFC in the AFC, who would be who would win these divisions? We're gonna and that's what we're doing. Let's hop right into the divisions first.
Okay, sounds good. Which side do you want to start with, AFC or NFC?
I'm just on the AFC and the AFC West.
Okay, so obviously I've got to go with the Chiefs. I mean, I think that's even a pretty reasonable selection there. The Chiefs being the defending champions for what is it, 5, 6 years running. It's hard to pick against the Chiefs. I mean, you could see, the Chargers. I mean, big news on the Chargers with Justin Herbert just getting a huge, 5-year, $260 million contract. So, we'll start to see the Chargers possibly take a step forward. I mean, it's not like I haven't, heard that for the last 3 or 4 years. The Chargers are going to take a step forward. But they could really compete, and who knows about Denver? Denver has the talent on their roster, but just really couldn't put it together last year. So, we'll see if they can kind of, put together more of a competitive offense this year, and maybe at least push the Chiefs. I mean, I still expect the Chiefs to win the division, but we'll see if it's a little bit more competitive this year.
Yeah, speaking of the state of Colorado and the city of Denver. Yes, it's a NFL, but congratulations to the Broncos. And I'm not saying I want to clap for the Broncos and the Nuggets. Yes, this is football. This is not basketball. But I want to congratulate Denver on becoming a city that literally won the NBA Finals. Let's go back to football. So, I'm also a Chiefs fan. I would love a repeat a AFC West championship here in Kansas City. And that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm predicting.
Okay. Who do you think will be, most competitive against the Chiefs? Do you think any teams will step up, or do you think the Chiefs will kind of run the table again?
You didn't mention the Raiders, Luke. You gotta go with the Raiders as a threat to the Chiefs.
Okay.
Because Jimmy Garoppolo, Devontae Adams, Tyree Wilson, who we're going to talk about later, and that they just have that firepower. The Raiders have that firepower that Garoppolo has his best goal as the Raiders. So watch out for the Raiders here.
Okay. Yeah, and I know we discussed this in one of the earlier videos, but you're definitely more of a Jimmy G fan than I am. I mean, I don't think he's a poor quarterback. I just definitely don't see him as, maybe a top 15 quarterback around there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with a little bit more. I mean, definitely had weapons during his time, on the 49ers, but the Raiders they definitely have some offensive weapons.
Yeah, I'm missing Garoppolo. You know why? The Chiefs have experience with Garoppolo. They
True.
played against them in the Super Bowl 54.
True.
But they beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Happily for the Chiefs. But not happily for him, though.
For sure. So who are you thinking maybe in the AFC South, Daniel? I'll tell you that definitely my pick, and I think they're going to be the heavy favorites in that division. Would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, everybody's definitely kind of penciled them in for having a maybe a breakout season. With Trevor Lawrence really kind of coming into his own in the playoffs a little bit. I mean, the game where he played the best, that second half, it was kind of he was digging himself out of his own hole. After throwing 4 interceptions, I believe, in the first half. But he really kind of showed some flashes, and then getting Calvin Ridley back from suspension. I mean, I'm not telling anybody anything new. I mean, I think they'll definitely be the heavy favorites in that division, partly just because really there's not going to be, I don't think, two competitive other teams. I mean, the Titans, I think, will be decent, and with their recent Hopkins signing. But I really, think the Jaguars could maybe run away with it. I guess who are you thinking might be that division winner, Daniel?
Man, this is Trevor, my man.
The
To be
Prince.
honest, like I'm a huge Trevor Lawrence fan. Ever since his days at Clemson, I've been really pushing for Trevor Lawrence because he's a generational quarterback. Like, I'm going with the Jaguars because they have that firepower they have. Like you mentioned, Calvin Ridley.
Mm-hmm.
They also added more people to the Jaguars.
Yep. Yeah, they've definitely, made some solid additions in the offseason. So I think they'll definitely be a very solid team the next year.
And their biggest risk was the Titans because of the recent signing of DeAndre Hopkins. And then they also got Traylon Burks. You also got Buddy. I think they still got Buddy Apple.
I believe you're right. I'd have to double check that, but
Like, I think they do. But if you have the Dupree and you got DeAndre Hopkins on the
and I mean
offense,
Simmons on the defensive line. I mean
yeah.
they do have some talent, but my thing is, everybody in the NFL, really has some talented players across all the positions, and maybe they'll take a little step forward. I think what they were 7-10 last year, so to get into that playoffs, in that division, they'll probably have to win 10 or 11 games this year. So we'll see if they can step up.
Definitely, like, another big threat could maybe be the Patriots. They have Juju, their quarterback. I prefer to be Bailey Zappi because he really showed his. I wanted to be Bailey Zappi. And
Are
maybe
they
still Mac Jones. I prefer Bailey Zappi.
are they your pick in the AFC East? The Patriots?
In the AFC East or South?
Uh,
Or the
they're the
South?
they're, so I thought you mentioned the Patriots.
Yeah.
So the Patriots are in the AFC East. Would
My
they
bad,
be?
my bad,
No,
yeah.
you're good. Would they be your favorite in that division? I mean, there's going to be some good teams in that division next year. I mean, the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers coming in, will probably definitely be more competitive. And I mean, the Bills and the Dolphins also have really solid rosters. So it'll be interesting. I think the Patriots they might improve a little bit. But to be honest, I don't really see their record improving too much. I think they were 8-9 last year. And I think it sounds kind of harsh, but I think getting 10 wins for them, this season would be a successful season just because, the some of the really tough teams in their division.
Definitely, like I mentioned when we go, I'm heavily favored with the Jaguars in their division. Like you never know who's gonna win in any season.
True. So I'll tell you that I I have a feeling about the Dolphins. I mean, the Bills are definitely, probably the favorites in that, but I think people forget, a lot that, before Tua's injury, I mean, the Dolphins were right up there with the Bills. And have made some signings in the offseason, or I guess technically a trade for Ramsey, kind of a sign and trade or a trade and sign. Um, so I could definitely see the Dolphins taking it. I mean, I think the Bills will definitely, make the playoffs. I've heard some rumblings from, some maybe biased Chiefs fans or, some analysts who are kind of trying to make a name for themselves that have said stuff like, oh, maybe the Bills will miss the playoffs. I definitely don't think anything like that. But I could see the Dolphins, winning the division and the Bills still having, maybe 12 wins in the season just because it is a tough division. And, that's not even mentioning the Jets, who, a lot of people expect to, definitely take a step forward. Even if some people don't believe in Aaron Rodgers, maybe they think he's kind of lost some of his arm strength or, lost some of that touch that he had, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, I think everybody thinks the Jets will still improve. So to be honest, that's a brutal division for the Patriots.
Definitely, like for their division, I could see maybe the Patriots coming in fourth or third in the division.
Sure. Who do you have as the winner in that division?
Jets,
The
Jets.
Jets. Okay.
If you
Even
think about it,
okay.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'll counter it with Josh Allen and Tua, who are both are pretty solid quarterbacks.
Yes, like uh, if you think about the Jets, they have Aaron Rodgers, head coach Robert Saleh, Quentin Williams,
Mm-hmm. Who just got a big extension.
and you can't forget about they have Reno Cobb, they have Alan Lazard, they have Michael Hardman.
Yeah, I mean they've definitely added some talent. I mean, you know, if McCole could stay healthy, I think he could be a solid receiver, but he could just never really put it together for the Chiefs. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of potential, but I think there's a lot of teams in the NFL that always think, oh, there's a lot of potential, and it never pans out. So we'll see if what looks good kind of on paper for the Jets will work.
And they are getting back Brees Hall.
True.
What did they what they need Brees Hall
Mm-hmm.
to be successful?
Yeah, I'd agree.
He's coming back from injury. And they also got we cannot talk about it as a non-mention Sauce Gardner. Like he is the lifeblood of that secondary. You can't count him out. You cannot
True.
count the Jets out of their division. I think they can win. I think they will win within Rodgers out the realm. With Randall Cobb, with all the receivers I mentioned. and they no longer have Elijah Moore.
Yep. I saw
But
I'm trying to remember who he went to. He was traded, wasn't he, for like maybe a 6th or 7th round?
Cleveland,
Okay, Cleveland, that's right.
I would love to see the
Which that
Browns
kind of, I
go
guess, is
and
a good
win. That's my
segue to the AFC
prediction.
North.
Because
Wow. Okay.
Maybe
if
who
you
you
think
have,
about it,
for the AFC
That
North,
would be a
Daniel.
big shocker, I would say.
Deshaun Watson, Elijah Moore.
Think that's going to be enough to bring him over the top. I mean, Deshaun Watson really didn't look too good in the past season, so maybe he'll take a step forward. But I think for me, and I think a lot of people expect the Ravens to really take a step forward, and I could kind of see that division being the same as the AFC East, where there's maybe two teams with 11 or 12 wins that both of them get into the playoffs, and for me, those being the Ravens and the Bengals. And I mean, I probably see the Bengals still winning the division. I think they just have too much talent, between Burrow and Chase and Higgins, and really talent across the board. Addition of Orlando Brown Jr. from the Chiefs, which we'll see, how that signing goes for them, and then still some solid pieces, like in their secondary. So I think I still see the Bengals winning it, but I think which a lot of people expect as well. I think the Ravens will definitely, give them a run for their money. They were really competitive last year just until, they've been destroyed with injuries, just the past 3 years. So it'll be interesting to see, if they can take a step forward.
Definitely, I think the biggest threat to the Browns are the Ravens here. If you think about it, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, J.K. Dobbins, Isaiah Likely.
I think you're sleeping on the Bengals.
I am not sleeping on the Bengals because I have them dead.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would say putting them third is kind of sleeping on them. That's a little disrespectful, Daniel.
I am biased with the Bengals.
Sure.
Because you saw what happened to them in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, they really gave the Chiefs a tough game.
But I don't count them out. They're my second prediction to win the division.
Okay. And maybe now, well, I was just going to say, maybe now we can move to the NFC, which, I think maybe we'll start with the NFC East, which for me, I definitely still see the Eagles winning. I mean, I know they've lost a couple pieces, losing Gardner Johnson, losing a couple guys in free agency. They re-signed, I'd say, most of their team back and, made some new additions through the draft and kind of et cetera. So I think the Eagles still stay on top. I know a lot of people think, which every year they seem to say it, that, oh, this is going to be the Cowboys' year to break out. And in fact, I saw a stat that ESPN FPI, which is their analytics system, was saying the Cowboys have a 13% chance to make the Super Bowl, which, it seems like they throw out that number every year. But I still definitely see the Eagles winning. I think, Jalen Hurts is a very solid quarterback. I think no question top 5. I know some people will put him in the top 3. I definitely put him solidly in the top 5, if not top 4 for sure. And really, they've got talent across the board. Still, retained a lot of their Super Bowl core. So I don't know. Who are you thinking out of the NFC East? Yeah, so you got the Giants, you got the Eagles, you got the Commanders, and you have, well, Giants. Sorry, I missed Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders.
I am biased here in the NFC East. That makes more sense, yes. This division, I can definitely see the Eagles winning it, but don't count any team out here.
You think even the Commanders have a shot?
Yes, they have a shot.
Okay. You a believer in the new ownership group of the Commanders?
I do.
Okay.
Part of the new ownership is Michael Jordan.
I think it's Magic Johnson.
Yeah, Magic Johnson is what I was thinking.
Yep.
So, basketball reference, I'm sorry, but football related. Because he's a football owner.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, maybe.
I think everyone had a shot in the NFC East. But my prediction to win the NFC East, Eagles coming in second in the NFC East.
And who's
And
the winner?
I'm talking about one team that I believe I think it's gonna be the Giants that's gonna win the NFC East.
Wow. Okay.
You've got Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, you and also you have Sterling Shepard. You have firepower. You have Kayvon Thibodeau. You have Aziz Ojulari. And if you did, and they also drafted so they also drafted someone in the draft. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name, but hey.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting pick. And maybe now moving to the NFC North, which you got the Vikings, the Lions, the Packers, and the Bears. And I think I'm probably still going to stick with the Vikings. I mean, I think the Lions are kind of maybe even now the favorites in that division. I think a lot of people expect the Lions really to take a step. And I can definitely see that. Again, I see the Lions being very competitive with the Vikings, but I just don't see the Vikings falling off too far. Um, maybe they'd fall to 10 or 11 wins. But I don't know. I guess I don't see the Lions winning maybe two more than 11 or 12 games. Um, and so, I'll probably still stick with the Vikings.
Like, all love to Minnesota. They're known for the Minneapolis Miracle. You have to. We always gotta say this. I'm gonna say it. How the Lions win it all. Winning that division. They're a
Okay.
fun team to talk about. Fun team to even to watch this season.
Yeah, they're definitely kind of the, media and some fan bases darlings this year, I'd say. I think a lot of people are really, really watching the Lions to see if they take that big step forward that people are expecting.
And who do you think is gonna be the quarterback? Hayden Hurley. Well, he can be this year, but it could be
Yeah, it'll
Jared
definitely
Goff.
still
It could be Aiden Martinez.
no, it'll definitely still be Goff. I mean, I think there's been maybe a little bit of talk, but I think both of those quarterbacks definitely are not ready. I think Jared Goff is solidly their quarterback, at least for the near future. So I really don't even see much of a quarterback battle, to be honest. I think Goff has really secured that, and I mean he really had a decent season the previous year. I mean I think a lot of people kind of slept on Jared Goff because of how he left the Rams and not really having a solid ending there, but he really has performed decently well in the Lions.
So we'll
Definitely.
see. And then maybe now moving, which I know you mentioned the Saints, and the NFC South. Is that your pick? You got the Bucks, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons in the NFC South.
I
You
feel like
sticking with?
the Panthers are in the division too.
Yeah, they are. That I said that the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons.
I see the Panthers winning that division with the Saints coming in second.
Okay, it's definitely possible. Again, that's kind of a rough division to pick. I think some people expect the Buccaneers to fall off a little bit, and we'll see what the Panthers. Obviously with new coaching staff and really some changes there, and making the trade up in the first round for Bryce Young, and so it'll the Panthers will definitely be a very new look. So I'll probably I'll probably stick with the Saints. I think the Saints are still, a really solid team in that division. Maybe the Panthers are 1 or 2 years away, like you mentioned, from winning the division. But for me, it's hard to pick against the Saints right now. So I think I'll stick with my Saints pick.
Like all of the Saints, who literally is the home state. You know what they called a long time ago? I'm gonna say it. Archie Manning.
Mm,
And guess what? I think their car can possibly lead the Saints back to the Super Bowl.
maybe. I mean, it's a possibility. To be honest, I don't see them. I can see obviously, me picking them to win the division. They'll make the playoffs, but I don't see them advancing too far in the playoffs. I mean, I think again the NFC is not definitely not as strong as the AFC this season and probably for the next couple seasons, but I probably don't see them advancing. I mean, I don't think they can beat some of the other divisional winners in the NFC. So we got one more division. So we got the
Yes.
NFC West. So we got 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals, which I got to guess, based on your jersey, who you're going to pick to win that division. Is that your pick?
Definitely. Seahawks is definitely my pick. Because
Okay.
I'm a huge Seahawks fan. I have 2 Seahawks uniforms.
Sweet. Yeah, they
But
have some really cool color waves and jerseys, I will say. They definitely have some of the coolest jerseys in the NFL.
definitely, like, if you see I'm watching a Dickens Metcalf uniform, he's my
Hmm.
all-time favorite Seahawk.
There you go. Well, I think I have to pick against you, Daniel, and I think I like your Seahawks pick, but even without the quarterback position solidified, I still think the 49ers are the best team in the division, which again, I kind of have the attitude of, take down the king, you got to beat him. And, the 49ers, despite all their injuries and kind of their change ups, over the last 3 or 4 years, they've still consistently just been a really solid team just because they really have talent all across the board. So many offensive playmakers that, even with kind of that unstable, quarterback kind of battle now, I still think they'll win the division. But the Seahawks are an interesting pick. They really kind of I think Geno Smith kind of surprised some people. I think some people, didn't expect him to be as competitive as he was, in the past year. So I like your in that division, a little bit of an underdog pick, I would say.
Yeah, like, all love to the other teams in that division. All love to the Niners. I have them coming in second.
That makes sense. I
Like,
mean, the Rams and the Cardinals, I don't expect to be too competitive. I mean, definitely not the Rams, most likely. And you know, I guess I haven't seen too many updates on Kyler Murray, when he expects to be back from his injury. But I mean, their season kind of hinges on that, and if he can, come back at full strength.
Definitely, like, I'm sorry to hear the garage here, but no matter the garage because we're about to be a garage ourselves. I'm joking, but I can joke away to the honors because that's where the jokes really matter. And the awards really matter. Who's your predictions for the MVP, Luke?
I mean, again, it's hard for me to bet against Patrick Mahomes. But I will tell you that I could see maybe somebody not super unknown, but maybe even somebody like a Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence who comes up and wins it this year. I mean, again, definitely presumptive favorite being Mahomes, and I don't expect Mahomes to take a step back. Um, but I think there's almost a little bit of the, maybe people don't want the same MVP, candidate or winner every year. And so if a Josh Allen or a Trevor Lawrence or somebody other than maybe Mahomes or Burrow, has a pretty solid season, I could see the media or the voters really getting behind that campaign. So, I mean, obviously I could definitely see Mahomes, and I think, there's a, decent chance for Mahomes to repeat as MVP, but I could see a Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence, come up and win it this year.
Yeah, my prediction for the MVP. Hey, there's someone you're basically sleeping on here, Luke.
Okay, who is it?
Geno Smith.
Okay, so you're really on the Seahawks train this year.
Like, I'm another person you're sleeping on is Bryce Young.
I think it's too early. I mean, I know, Mahomes won it in really his second season. So it's, he kind of broke that, it's too early for a quarterback to win the MVP award, but I just Mahomes came into the perfect situation to, be able to win the MVP early on in his career. And I know the Panthers do have some, offensive weapons, but he doesn't have a Tyreek Hill or a Travis Kelce, or, just an top level elite playmaker like Mahomes did. So I think it's a little bit too early for Bryce Young. And, we'll see. We've, never seen him play at all in the NFL. So, we'll have to see if his game translates. I mean, I think his game will translate and, he'll be a solid NFL quarterback. But in my opinion, at least for me, it'd be too early to, maybe even consider him an MVP candidate. I mean, I'd have to see him, play some games in the NFL first.
Another person that's been slept on is Derrick Henry.
So I will say, I think, you know, he's probably not one of the favorites, but for offensive player of the year, I think he definitely has a lot more of a chance to win than MVP. I mean, MVP, I'm sure as you know, tends to be a quarterback, award. Whereas offensive player of the year, a lot of times will, be a running back or wide receiver or a non-quarterback position. So I could definitely see him, being in contention for, offensive player of the year.
Like, speaking of the offensive player of the year, my prediction for offensive player of the year, my runner-up is going to be Derrick Henry. Unfortunately, I would definitely want him to win that. I would want the winner to not just have the bragging rights, but to have the perfect, not a perfect season though, but to have a perfect fit in the NFL. For me, I'm biased with the USFL because I'm a big USFL fan. It's still professional football. I'm talking if all love to Jordan Love. If he doesn't work out, I think I know one person will. 2-time USFL champion, 1-time USFL MVP, Alex McGill.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
League.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I'll be honest that, you're definitely, watch more of the USFL or XFL than me. I tend to, focus on the NFL or college football, so I haven't seen as much, but that would definitely be a shocker. I think, maybe having somebody like that come over and have success could, be a game breaker for some of those leagues to, kind of become more feeder leagues into the NFL. I mean, I know there's been a little bit of that, but if that happens, like you said, that would definitely, accelerate probably the growth of those leagues.
Definitely, Mike. Speaking of those leagues, Jim Kelly played in the USFL. There's a tidbit on that for you.
Interesting.
So,
and what about defensive player of the year? Who do you have for that?
First of all, how defensive are you, Luke?
A bit.
Like, do you like watching the passer or do you like intercepting the pass?
I'd say probably intercepting a pass.
The reason why I was asking Luke is how Chris Jones winning Defensive Player of the Year.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's definite talk of that. I mean, currently he seems to kind of be in a little bit of a contract holdout with the Chiefs, not reporting to training camp this past week and, hoping to get a contract extension. So, hopefully that'll, either get worked out or, they'll figure out what to do with that situation. But yeah, that would be an interesting one. And then I'm curious on your interception one. I think one pick that, some people have made, and really, I mean, I think it's surprising because he's going into his second year, but it's really not very surprising when you watch his performance on the field is Sauce Gardner. I mean, he's, really made the case of being, one of the best, if not, the best cornerback in the league as a rookie. Which I think, obviously he was drafted highly and, was pretty highly regarded as a prospect, but I think he exceeded any expectations, even of, being such a high draft prospect. So sounds crazy to say, but I think he, has a pretty decent shot if he, continues his trajectory from his rookie season. And, I could see a Chris Jones or, maybe even if he comes back well from injury, he's a little bit, past his prime, but like a Von Miller or a, maybe a Bosa, an edge rusher, who, really makes an impact on the game. But yeah, I think, like you said, Chris Jones and for me, Sauce Gardner are both, pretty solid picks.
Definitely. Next, we got rookies. Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Who are you going with?
I said this a lot, Bryce Young.
Okay. So I'll go with a little bit of a sleeper pick. For me, for some reason I'm a real believer in JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's going to be really solid for the Seahawks, and not even biased by your jersey. I think for Ohio State, watching him, Ohio State, especially these past years, has had an incredible wide receiver core. And the years that he was healthy and played for Ohio State, I mean, he was the clear, best wide receiver on the field.
So, I think he's, maybe got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder from, not having, played much his final season and, seeing Ohio State lose to Georgia and in the college football playoff. I think he will probably come in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and again comes into a pretty decent position, with Geno Smith and, kind of a Seahawks team looking to, like you said, maybe in your opinion, get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so I would definitely be over Jackson Smith and Zach Bowen, the offensive rookie of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Although that was clapping. On the defensive side, this gets exciting. Real exciting. Luke, I just want to ask you this question. If you were a rookie in other defense, and a cornerback, what type of cornerback will you think you would become?
Let's have a cornerback. I'd say probably like a zone coverage type cornerback, just because I'd say I'm not like super fast or kind of like explosive with my acceleration. So like a press coverage or man coverage would be pretty hard for me. So kind of more of like a zone coverage, maybe a little bit of press on the line, but then more of a zone type corner, I would say.
The reason why I asked Luke that question, I have Devin Witherspoon as my defensive rookie of the year. He's a physical, well, like I mentioned in the mock draft special, Devin Witherspoon is a physical human being. He is a big hitting corner. He's gonna be the face of the Legion of Boom 2.0 with Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, and then we can't forget about Marty Mafe, and definitely that defense is gonna be very fun to watch there in Seattle. And I can see where it's been winning defensive rookie of the year because of his unwavering spirit. I'm just compare him to someone like it's really hard comparing him.
Maybe like I don't know, you think Darrelle Revis, or I'm trying to think, or maybe even for the Seahawks like Sherman. I mean, Richard Sherman could be a good comparison for him.
When you talk physicality, that is a big time thing.
Mm-hmm.
He is so physical.
Yeah. So I'll always kind of stick with the cornerback position and go with, I think, another guy who's kind of got a real chip on his shoulder, maybe got drafted a little bit lower than people thought, and go with Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon for the Patriots. I mean, I think the Patriots are going to have a really solid defense, and one thing that really can help a corner out is having a solid defense around you that can kind of allow you to kind of make some mistakes and maybe be aggressive. And so I think he really is in a great position. I mean, I know a lot of people thought he'd maybe be a top 10 draft pick, or even maybe top 8, or somewhere around in that range. And he fell, I believe, all the way down to 18, or I think it was 17, to the Patriots. And so I think I'll go with Christian Gonzalez, another guy, I think who's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder and kind of again just comes into a really good place.
My Devin Witherspoon is not because I'm wearing a Seahawks uniform. is because he has the potential to do it.
Yeah. No, they're both very, very solid corners, who I think, have a decent chance at winning Defensive Rookie of the Year.